here with COVID, and they were talking about an elite area. It's in a part of Melbourne, and yeah, a lot of people travel in that area, and this media report said something about they were being affected, and so obviously it does not discriminate. It was that as much saying that, oh yes, even people with money can get this. It really troubled me, that comment, and that where that thought came from. Even COVID doesn't discriminate. As if you've got money, nothing's going to touch you. It's pretty sick.
It is, no doubt.
Anyway, I've got to check.
Yeah, I'm going to just put us live on Facebook, so give me a second. You can keep talking for a moment. If anyone else wants to say how you're doing, it would be great to hear you. Hi, Kristen. Hi, Lori. Hi, Beth. Hi, Renee. This is China Rose, so let me just get us live and then... Well, we'll see if Facebook cooperates
So
today.
I've been doing okay this week. It's been a little rough. Emotionally, it's been a little bumpy, mostly because of what I'm feeling and the turbulence I'm getting from some of my friends and my loved ones. You know, they're getting scared and anxious and afraid and nervous and all of those. And then, of course, it ripples down.
Yeah.
And as somebody who is very kind of service oriented and very much in helper mode, it distresses me not to be able to assist them with the situation. More than just texting, calling, talking, you know, obviously, because that is what we can do right now, reaching out, reminding them of why so many people love them. You know, those type of things are all positive and good things. But it does definitely, I mean, this has been a theme since we started this group. It definitely comes down the webs in some ways. And as everything starts shaking, the people that are used to holding others together and holding others up start to feel the sway. And I'm definitely feeling that this week. On the other side of it, I've had some really lovely positive things too. So for me, it's been both. So I'm in a pretty good place this weekend, but I am nervous, worried, wishing I could do more towards a lot of my friends and loved ones who are not living with me through this situation.
I've got tools for you. So
that's
today's topic.
Yeah, thank you so much for presenting that, Lori. Because one of the things we've been talking about, China Rose, is, you know, I know you were on at least one meeting, but, you know, a lot about how some of us are very well resourced right now and feel like we can be the giver. And many people, of course, are having a really hard time. And that changes day to day and that changes week to week. I was thinking today, I'm like, God, this is the 4th week. I'm a writer. Why didn't I start like tracking what was happening for me each week? You know, I can kind of think back to like what have been the themes of each week. And so, you know, we get to be where we are throughout and track ourselves and track our loved ones. And, you know, there's probably some really bumpy roads ahead. China Rose is just a phenomenal health, I don't even know what to call you. Like coach isn't even the right word. I always feel like coach is like not a big enough word. Like you really hold people. You're really a health and wellness doula for people. And I know that you are an actual doula. I love what you do. I have worked with China Rose. She is amazing. Her wealth of knowledge about health and well-being, how to really care for our whole system is tremendous. And so I'm really, really excited for this session today and for her to to talk to us about how we can keep ourselves healthy, how we can keep our loved ones healthy, how we can keep ourselves well-resourced, because this is a marathon. This isn't a sprint. I think we all know that now. So, so welcome. I want to let you tell them more about you, and I'm just so delighted and happy that you're here.
Thank you so much. It makes my heart happy to be with everyone today, and thank you for the invitation to be in this group of amazing women that have spoken before me as well. I know that each one adds a gem to this experience, and myself, I'm a nutritional therapist and a clinical herbalist and a yoga teacher. I also have a history as a birth doula. So I think with all of that experience, really perspective is such a big part of how each one of us experiences this, right? We gain tools and ideas from everyone around us. And through my education in holistic health, I'd have to say myself and my wife, AJ, who's also a holistic health educator, we met this experience initially with a real sense of calm and confidence. And that came from a feeling of like, we got this. This is what we've been training for our whole lives. We, on a daily basis, have worked to not only build our health, both physically and mentally, but we've, through that experience, helped to support other people in doing the same. And this is exactly the purpose of all of that. It's coming to this beautiful head, really, and that we can take the positive route. We can take the empowering route in this situation if we're feeling called to shift that sense of fear or uncertainty. So I came across this term. A wise woman in our circle brought this term to me recently, and that of the faith keeper. Some of you might have heard that term before. I did more research about it, and it being a role in indigenous tribes and groups of the person who keeps the faith for the tribe, for the clan, that feels rooted in a sense of purpose and positivity and kind of that sense of something larger, and can hold that space for the rest of the clan. And I feel like we resonate with that. I know, Amy Jo, you resonate with that. There are many people in our lives that are playing that role right now. And like you said, that might shift. You know, I lean on someone else tomorrow, and you know, the ripple continues. So I feel like that sense of confidence, that ability to hold that space, comes from many things. The fact that I honor the earth and its wisdom, the fact that it goes through cycles of cleansing and renewal and healing, and also that our bodies possess that same wisdom. I love this beautiful body that I live in. I have a deep reverence for the intricacies of its inner workings. I trust in what it's capable of. I've witnessed it go through many different challenges in this life, and I feel like through that experience, I've created a strong partnership with my body. And, you know, AJ and I have both come from a history of personal health challenges as children, as adolescents, many chronic imbalances that we didn't really receive any help from a conventional point of view. And it wasn't until both of us did our own research and decided to educate ourselves that we found ways to ease those symptoms and come out on the other side feeling far more empowered in our healthcare. So that, combined with 22 years of holistic health education at this point, and being in private practice and clinical practice for over a decade, that's only reinforced the fact that we have the power to heal ourselves. We have that innate ability within us. And it's only within the last, I'd say, the last century that slowly that confidence has been stripped away. So I am encouraging everyone to come back to those roots and feel more empowered in our healthcare every day moving forward. And hopefully today I can provide some tools to support you in that. So I think it helps to wrap our minds around what holistic health even means. I know that's a term that's thrown around a lot and we hear it a lot, but what does it really mean? To me, as a healthcare practitioner, it means taking into consideration all aspects of our health when we're looking at how best to support ourselves or our loved ones. So that's not only the physical, like how much water am I drinking every day, what kind of food am I eating, what kind of stress am I under, but what is my mental health like? What is that space like right now? And how can I communicate that and work through those things? And the fact that mental health affects physical health and vice versa. So I think, especially in a unique time like this, that's an important piece to come back to. Everything that affects our physical health then has an effect on mental health, and the same goes for the opposite. So the other things we can remember from a holistic point of view is that our bodies are freaking amazing. They are amazing. They do so much behind the surface, or under the surface rather, behind the scenes, that we're not even aware of. They're constantly looking for ways to reach that place of homeostasis, right, or balance. And that's with us having nothing to do with it mentally, right? It's all happening every moment of every day. It's also so amazing that our bodies are on autopilot to regenerate. We're constantly having old cells die off and disintegrate, and new cells coming to the surface and going to that. So we have the ability to strengthen every single part of our body every day by the fuel that we give our body to make those new cells. So basically every single organ, every single gland, tissue, even our bone marrow regenerates over time. That's so awesome. When I learned that, I was like, okay, I'm in. What can I do to support this? Also with holistic health, we want to consider that sense of bio-individuality, right? That's unfortunately what I'm seeing in the holistic health realm a lot these days is, the 21 days to, a healthy body, or, trying to put everyone into this kind of cookie cutter shape and form as to what our bodies need to get to that place, right? And, look around even at who's in this group. We are all uniquely different and beautiful and bring to the table new and unique health situations, the way we handle stress, our health history, our genetics, what we eat, what we don't eat. All of these things make us superiorly unique. And we need to address our health in that way. We can't put ourselves into a box. We can't all do the same thing and expect to achieve the same goals. So that's something I'll come back to again as we're talking about our tools to work with. Also, with holistic health, we're looking at our symptoms as our body's way of communicating with us, right? So it's not just, oh, I have a headache, let me find something to take for this headache. I look at something like a headache as an opportunity to dig a little deeper. It's like, okay, why is this headache coming up right now? Is it because I'm tense? Because I didn't sleep well last night? Because I ate too much sugar or drank too much caffeine, or I just had an argument with someone. So whatever it is, not that we shouldn't quiet those symptoms, maybe even using something natural like a medicinal herb or drinking a glass of water even, but we have the opportunity to tap into the reasons behind it, and maybe in that way we can prevent it moving forward. So it's all about learning from what our bodies try to tell us. Also, we have this ability to support our bodies with the tools that it needs to work efficiently. So all these things I just mentioned, the fact that our bodies are amazing, they're on autopilot to rejuvenate and regenerate. If we give our body the right tools to do that, there's no end to the possibilities in terms of how strong we can be, how efficient our immune systems can work, how much we can ease our sense of anxiety or fear or even depression. So we have the tools available to us. I think what helps is to start to simplify how to use those tools and which ones are best for each person and each situation. So though with holistic health, the initial idea is that of prevention, like here's this opportunity to bolster our systems to prevent illness and imbalance. The idea is also that if we do get to the point to where we maybe contract an illness or a virus, that our bodies are equipped to handle it efficiently, and we can roll, with that wave and also recover efficiently. So that's, it's twofold really. So those are the foundations of understanding the capabilities of our bodies. Who loves their body for how amazing it is now? It's like, isn't that cool, right? Everybody should get on board with that, because we have that opportunity for that deep respect. So who has felt stressed in the last couple of weeks, even the last couple of days? I know, right? Myself included. We all kind of, it's a roller coaster, right? That's how I'm looking at it lately. I have days where I feel really, really confident and clear, and other days where I need to kind of simmer in whatever I'm feeling. And stress is one of those things that when we look at the science and how it affects us physically, it triggers that flight or fight response, right? That we all learned about in junior high and high school, maybe even college biology. It's that flight or fight response prepares us to handle, meeting that bear in the forest, needing to run away fast or fight the bear. And that's a survival mechanism. We need that response. But what that response does is also trigger, and a surge in those stress handling hormones, which then increases the inflammation in our body. So if we have any chronic health conditions, stress is going to usually kind of bring those up to the surface and cause them to be exacerbated. Stress also down-regulates how our immune system functions. So when it's, many of us share the goal of staying well right now. That's one of the biggest things we can tackle, is the fact that, stress has that immediate trigger on our immune system that causes it to underfunction. Also, just because I'm so focused on hormones in my private practice, it's nice to know that stress also triggers a lot of hormonal imbalances moving forward. So, whether you're a woman who experiences PMS symptoms, or a woman hoping to get pregnant, or a man at any age that experiences, shifts in mood and energy and motivation, or a woman around perimenopause or menopause, stress is the main trigger for hormones going out of balance. So that's another kind of motivating factor to look at how we handle stress. And I know we all have different tools, right? For me, being outdoors and being in nature is one of my biggest tools for easing stress. Whether you're an artist and you communicate through your art, or you do yoga, or you meditate, or you just take deep breaths throughout the day. I'm taking deep breaths all day long. That's my goal. Or if we're having regular dance parties here in the house, like just even if it's just 2 or 3 of us, we're doing that to reduce stress, or watch funny movies. We just discovered RuPaul's Drag Race. I have to say, we just started season 1. So we're like,
oh girl,
it is like,
it's everything right now. It's everything. I got sick in the fall, and that's when I started it. And I've done like 4 seasons plus 2 seasons of All Stars. Like we need that right now. Thank you, RuPaul.
Yeah, thank you. I know, we're so grateful. It's changing everything. So that's what I'm saying. No matter what your tools look like, tap into those right now. That's our first stage of our medicine, really, is what we can do to reduce stress. And really just acknowledge that we have choices every day. I know, again, the amazing women that have come into this group before me have probably talked about that, but I personally, every day, I do my best to choose love. I choose love. I choose to love myself. I choose to love my fellow human beings. I choose to love the earth every day and consider what I can be doing to support nature and, the benefits that I receive from nature. I choose positivity in my thoughts as much as I can. It's not always easy, but I lead with that. I choose positivity in what I expose myself to. So I'm not watching certain forms of or sources of news. or, you know, I'm choosing who I surround myself with, even remotely, you know, choosing to surround myself with people that lift me up. And basically, as I mentioned, AJ and I have chosen to kind of channel all of this uncertain energy, anxious energy into taking positive action. And that's what we're encouraging, you know, anyone who's feeling fed up with being anxious or fearful or frustrated, encouraging you to take that energy and channel it. We have so many opportunities to support this body that we've created this partnership with. And those are the details I want to go into with the rest of our time. But does anybody have anything to add? Any other gems about what we've talked about so far, or questions at all? Awesome.
Anyone want to jump in here? No pressure to. Kristen, I love that I'm seeing like a child behind you popping into the, it's like.
I'm loving it too.
She's enjoying it. There she is.
Oh, it's adorable. Oh my God. Thanks for the smiles.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some details. Like, now that we have this big idea, how can we put this into action? So food is going to be at the top of my list as a nutritional therapist, but also just someone who has seen the power of what food choices can do. You know, food can either help us or it can hinder us. And, you know, the choice is ours. Yes, there are difficult choices to make with food all day long. And I want to talk through some of those choices and how we can address some of maybe the cravings that we're having. And that's super common in a stressful time, right? Those specific food cravings. So,
well, and this is like I just want to interject for a second.
Yes.
This is such a big deal right now because suddenly we all have to eat at home all the time. I mean, you don't have to, you can do takeout, but most people I know are doing that pretty minimally. I mean, I ordered a pizza one night because I was just like, I just need something really different,
Yeah,
you know, that I can't make taste like that at home. You know, and I like to cook, and I'm an okay cook, but I'm sick of my food already. I just am getting really uninspired. I'm eating a lot of the same things. And so, you know, I think a lot of people are really challenged around this, and especially if they don't know how to cook, if that's not something that they really do. So yeah, I would love to hear your tips on this, because it's such a big thing that's happening for us right now. Like,
huge.
Whoever has cooked this much in modern year, you know, in the last, you know, decade or two. I mean,
just want to add something funny. I have a dish server for my community. Can you hear me?
You're breaking up just a little bit.
I can't tell who's talking. Yeah, you're really breaking up. Who's speaking right now?
If you want to, too, you can always type into the chat box and we can read it.
Yeah, it's like very warbly. It sounds a little underwater. I'm not sure who was talking because nobody unmuted. All right.
Maybe what I'll do is jump in, and as soon as you have a chance to type it in the box, we can come together around it.
Let's do that. Perfect.
Awesome. So because nutrition is such a big topic, and we could literally be here for days talking about aspects of nutrition, I thought I would distill it down into my top 5 food and beverage tips for wellness in the time of Corona. That was so number 1, let's focus on what we can add as opposed to what we maybe should subtract initially, because that's a good way to look at it. We need to add as many nutrients to our food as possible right now, right? Because those are the building blocks for our immune system, for our ability to handle stress efficiently and not have so many negative impacts of stress. So, you know, the way that looks to me, you know, I'm an omnivore. I know everyone has different, you know, pictures of what they feel drawn to in terms of styles of eating, but we can all benefit from incorporating way more produce right now than we would normally. And I know that kind of goes against what a lot of people are being drawn to right now, which is a lot of shelf stable foods, right? Things that will stay good for a long time in the pantry. And it's, that's great. We can kind of pepper those in as we need to, but we can't lose our focus on fresh food. That's where the nutrient gems live. And so I'm a big supporter of our farmers markets right now. I know some people haven't had as positive of an experience with them recently in terms of safety guidelines, but I think they're all really stepping up their game in terms of creating these guidelines that allow us to still use this valuable resource without doing so in an unsafe way. So we're making an effort, and again, sending one person from the household each week, as opposed to making it a social engagement, as attractive as that is right now. But really just going to see what looks amazing, like what draws your attention, what is fresh and beautiful and fragrant, and what attracts you right now. And some of us have that little bit of extra time to grab something that's maybe not as familiar and look up a recipe when you get home. There's, we have all the recipes of all time on the internet available to us. So there's an opportunity maybe to get creative and see this as, I see cooking as an art project. Every time I jump into the kitchen, it's an opportunity to create something new, to throw different flavors together, to, the beauty of what we eat is so important to us. So AJ is the ultimate master at presenting food in this beautiful, appealing way. And it is an art form. And that's maybe what I'm encouraging people to look at it as. It doesn't feel like so much of a chore. But I feel like if we focus more energy on our fresh foods, then those pantry, stable items can be peppered in around that, and we still, utilize what we have at home. Also, if we don't feel like going out to the market, often for this type of food, we can sign up for a CSA, which is a community-supported agriculture box. You get a box of fresh produce from a local farm on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis. And that way you're just going to a pickup point to pick it up once a week or so. Also, for those of us who don't want to cook or aren't comfortable in the kitchen, there's so many meal delivery services now. Beyond, we want to support our local restaurants. I definitely want to put that out there. But there are organic meal delivery options that ship all over the country. There are, ones focused on every style of eating, so we can find something that suits our needs and desires. And maybe it looks like a meal kit that you get all the ingredients all measured out for you, like you're on a cooking show, and you get to kind of just pull from them and piece them together based on the recipe they give you. That, I think, is a great way to learn how to cook, because here you are with everything you need, and then you just are led through the process of combining it and cooking it. And then some of them are completely prepared. So you have, either it comes frozen or it comes fresh, and you can keep it in the fridge for a couple of days. So those are all great options, for people at different levels of comfort with cooking. But I would say keeping vegetables interesting too. I know a lot of us went through, not so much myself, but I've heard a lot of horror stories about people whose families cooked vegetables to death and left them flavorless and limp on the plate.
Oh my
some
God,
of us
totally.
are traumatized,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
My father grew up in Ohio, and it was like, I mean, everyone in my family did that. It's like,
Yeah. Very Midwest, very
Midwestern thing to do. No offense to the Midwesterners, but
no.
it's a thing. It's definitely a thing.
Yeah. So I'm encouraging people to step up to the plate with a new perspective. With, I know we form a lot of ideas about what we don't like from our childhood eating experiences, but we have this newly formed adult palate to play with, right? And it's so different when we have a hand in preparing our own food, and even in picking our own food from the market, or better yet, from our own garden. We have that experience with the food from the very beginning, and it makes it ours. And when we cook and eat something that we've made or grown, there is nothing like it, right? That experience, that connection to the food is so rich. So that's my number one, increase our nutrients however we can. Number two is actually to keep our blood sugar stable throughout the day. I know a lot of us never had really been taught about the importance of the balanced and blood sugar stability. So what I'm talking about is, like waiting too long to eat when we get up in the morning, like waiting hours and hours before we eat anything, or going too long between meals. So, when we talk about stress and the negative impact that stress has on our immune system and our hormones and our inflammation, our blood sugar being low is a more silent source of stress on our body. And so here we are kind of adding to that burden on our body with that, waiting too long to eat breakfast or getting to that hangry point before we eat something. So that's a pretty simple thing we can shift. And, I'd encourage people to have, even if it's just a little something within the first hour of getting up in the morning, and maybe every 3 or 4 hours after that, depending on the person. It's a pretty good guideline to follow. Who here feels totally irritable when they don't eat something, right? Or even a little anxious? Like I get to where I feel kind of panicked if I don't eat something when I need to. We don't need to add that to our kind of already, anxiety or fearful feelings right now. So simple little things we can do. Number three is to greatly decrease our overly processed foods. So let's talk about cravings. I know when I'm stressed, no matter what's happening, I want some comfort food, right? This is super common, and everybody's comfort food looks a little different. For me, sugar comes up in my mind immediately. For other people, it's something more rich and fat, forward, or salt for some people. I know chips are like a go-to for a lot of people. So here's an opportunity to kind of step back and check in with what's going on physically in that moment. So when we're stressed, we utilize more B vitamins than ever to combat that stress, work with that stress response. And so our body's looking for sources of B vitamins when we're stressed to refuel that in our body. Sugar and any kind of refined carbohydrate like bread or pasta or crackers, cereal, provide some form of B vitamins. So here's that direct link to why we might crave those foods. Also, sugar it acts like a drug on our brain, right? It creates that production of feel-good neurotransmitters. So when we're stressed, we just want to feel better, right? So here's that direct chemical response to what happens when we eat sugar. Or just the fact that artificial colors and flavors or chemical preservatives in foods, these are actually ingredients that are known neurotoxins. So what that means is that these chemicals have a negative impact on our nervous system and therefore on our brain. So again, if we're already feeling stressed or anxious, and we add foods that contain these kind of chemical ingredients, we're exacerbating those feelings basically. So when we can connect to those things, when we're feeling grounded and centered, and maybe try to weed out some of those foods from our kitchen, from our pantry, we are therefore, creating that strong bond and partnership with our body to achieve the goals that we have. So
China Rose,
yeah.
Several of us, myself included, posted here that sugar is like the big culprit.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes it works for me to, like right now I have a bunch of really sweet, delicious oranges from my dad's trees.
Yeah.
So sometimes it works for me to substitute something like that, that's at least a healthier choice. It's going to give me some of those nutrients you're talking about. Do you have other suggestions because I'll totally do the like sugar is like it's my reward, my chocolate chip cookies and my afternoon coffee are my reward, like one of my favorite things. So do you have other suggestions for how to address that?
For sure, because and I knew that was going to be the biggest challenge for most of us, right? It's that direct desire for sugar, whether it be like you said as reward or for some of us, it's a pick-me-up. So like in the afternoon, we crave something sugary because we're starting to feel tired. We need to still have work to do. So yes, there are strategies and tools to help with that. So So number one, it comes back to blood sugar stability. So a lot of us tend to crave sugar the moment our blood sugar starts to get low. And I think if we pay attention, we'll start to notice this pattern. Usually for a lot of people, all the hundreds of people I've spoken to over the years, that commonly comes in the afternoon, right? We've had lunch, it's been a couple hours since lunch, then we start to look for something sweet. So if we maybe have a snack, and make sure we have something healthy to pull from for that afternoon snack, and something that's hearty enough to feel satisfying, usually those sugar cravings start to come down. So that can be quite helpful. Another thing, like you said, is having substitutions. I'm all for treating yourself. It's not about deprivation. It's about having maybe some more whole food options to replace those more refined, white sugar foods. So like for us, we'll either make things that use dates as a sweetener versus a refined sugar, or we'll use things like coconut sugar sometimes, which is a lot lower glycemic than refined white sugar. And if you're not a baker and you don't make things at home, there are quite a few store-bought items that now sweeten, foods with these choices. So I have a great chocolate bar that I love. I'm a huge chocolate fan, but it's sweetened with coconut sugar. So it's a lot lower glycemic. I find it doesn't make me, that sugar rush you get when you have a bunch of white sugar, and it feels awesome for maybe 30 minutes. And then you just fall down on the floor afterwards, like this high and this super low. So something like coconut sugar does not cause such a high, so it doesn't leave you on the ground afterward. So it's all about having other tools at hand so that you don't feel tempted to go for something more refined.
That's helpful. And one of the things also that I've recently discovered, a friend of mine was making them all the time, and now I'm like, okay, this is a good idea to be doing this, is the chia puddings, taking chia seeds.
Yes.
It's so easy to make. You just put some chia seeds in a bowl with some coconut milk, which I love, and leave it overnight, and then it makes this amazing pudding, and then you can flavor it with berries or other kinds of things, or if you have a chocolate that's low sugar or whatever. But that's been really satisfying for me lately too, although I ran out of chia seeds.
Darn. No, we make that one too, or those little superfood balls people will make with dried coconut and dates and nuts and seeds, and flavor that however they want. I don't know how many of you have utilized stevia before. It's an herb that's naturally sweet that doesn't actually have any sugar content to it. So that's great if you don't want to kind of have that sugar up and down effect, but it still satisfies that sweet craving. And they make chocolate flavored stevia or stevia, it's said both ways. They make vanilla, make all these different flavors of naturally flavored stevias now. So that's a great tool to know about. But that's what I was going to say too. My number 4 was to work on reducing refined sugar and alcohol too. I'm not anti-alcohol, but I think right now, again, when our goal is to keep ourselves well, to keep our immune system strong, both of those things have a negative impact on our immunity. So if we can look for alternatives, like we just talked about with the sweet, sweets and treats that use more whole food ingredients, or we're huge fans of making herbal mocktails. I don't know if that's something you've had experience with, but we'll use herbs that are naturally relaxing, very safe herbs, and make a whole, beautiful cocktail like you drink in a beautiful glass with a garnish and everything, and it feels special, and you still get that same relaxing benefit from it that a lot of people look to alcohol for. So maybe it just means peppering that in a little bit.
I love that. Do you have herb suggestions? I know a couple of years ago, I quit drinking in 2016, my birthday in 2016. Right. My birthday was the day after the election. So I had some wine, and then I was like, okay, I'm done. That was not a good day for this world. But one of the things I discovered is buying flavored bitters, and I actually get them in Napa. China Rose and I both were living in Napa. That's how we knew each other. So she can appreciate all the kind of fancy bitters and different things. Like you can get bitters in these different flavors, and it became a way of giving myself sort of a special drink. If I went to a party, I would just stick put a bottle or two of the bitters in my pocket and show up with some seltzer water and, you know, and a lime, and then I've got like a fancy drink with everybody else. But what do you recommend in terms of herbs? Because that's a great it's a great tip for people when you just want something that feels more special.
Exactly. I love using nervine herbs. So this is a classification of herbs that calms the nervous system. It helps us feel more grounded. It can be used acutely like that in a mocktail to help, you know, take the edge off and help us relax after a long day, or at a party. Maybe it's a virtual party now where we're getting together with people we don't know as well, and we want to feel more comfortable and calm and centered. But yes, examples of these herbs are like I love using passion flower, skullcap, oat straw. Damiana is one of my favorites. Holy basil is considered to be a nervine. Lemon balm. There's so many different ones, and it tends to be a very safe category of herbs. So that's something to look into for sure. I'm going to talk a little bit more about herbs before we get off the phone, but I think mocktails are a great thing to get, again, kind of, even if we do continue to drink here and there, we don't feel so maybe dependent on something that we know is hindering our immune systems right now. So great tool to know about. And I'm just going to say number 5, last on the list with food and beverages, would be to reduce caffeine. You know, this might come, you know, second nature to someone, but if we're feeling anxious or worried, to have too much caffeine throughout the day is only exacerbating that, right? So we all have to find our balance. Myself, I'm finding I can't do coffee right now. As much as I love the flavor and the smell of it, it's making me feel really just jittery because my stress level is already heightened, right? It might not normally make us feel that way, but we're in this different situation. So I'm doing like green tea or yerba mate or a chai in the morning. I could still get a little bit of a pick-me-up, but I'm not feeling, you know, crazy overstimulated. So maybe a decaf coffee is an answer for some people. Just finding your balance, knowing that that could be exacerbating how you're feeling, possibly. Yeah. So in terms of, I mean, that's just my top 5 tips, but there's so many ways to then strategize within each of those, you know, goals. So I'd say checking out our China Rose Wellness Facebook or Instagram pages. We're constantly posting tips about how to make these shifts. So that's a great, you know, free resource to kind of look back into old posts throughout the year.
I got to tell you, the first post that you sent out as soon as this happened, I mean, I read it, it was long, and I read the whole thing. I'm telling you, her information, China Rose and AJ's information is fantastic. So
thank you.
Definitely get on her mailing list. I read your stuff. There's a lot of things that come through my inbox that I ignore,
I'm sure.
but I read your stuff.
Thank you.
So, but really, really helpful. I appreciate your generosity around information, and also just you have such a wonderful way of explaining things and making it really user friendly. So
thank you.
I just want to acknowledge you for what you are putting out there, because it's super helpful.
Thank you. We felt compelled that this is information people deserve to know, and that's I feel the same way about medicinal herbs. I feel like, you know, here's this opportunity to come back to our roots in terms of our medicine. This is the form of medicine we've been using for 5,000 years. The form of medicine we've been handing down through, you know, our lineage, oftentimes through the women of the family for thousands of years. And it's only within the last, you know, 100 years that we've slowly started to lose touch with that empowering form of medicine we can use at home in, you know, either prevention or addressing specific symptoms. So I feel like it's our birthright to know this information about foundational sources of medicine that are you can either grow yourself or get, you know, at a, you know, a very low cost. Really, there's a lot of options there. So I think first and foremost, I want to say herbs are amazing, and I get so excited when I talk about them. But we also want to respect how potent some of them are, and how they all have very clear physiological actions. And so sometimes those actions don't mix well with certain prescription medications. Sometimes we don't want to combine them in certain ways because of, you know, the actions they're trying to perform. So I'd say, starting off with a really like beginner friendly herbal medicine book, or, we post a lot about simple ways to use herbs, talking to an herbalist like myself about your specific situation and how herbs might be useful in your life. And even your pharmacist is actually going to be a better resource. Like if you have a specific herb you want to use, and are not sure if it's going to be safe to combine with your medication, your pharmacist should be able to look up possible contraindications for you, whereas many doctors just don't have that resource right in front of them and don't have that education. So in terms of the types of herbs I'm using a lot right now and recommending for clients, those nervines are on the top of the list because everybody's feeling a little tense, a little stressed. There's also a whole classification of herbs called adaptogens, and I think more and more people are hearing that term now. These are herbs that help our bodies to adapt to stress, thereby reducing the negative impacts that stress has on our inflammation, our immune systems, our hormonal balance. So there's nothing like it in the pharmaceutical medicine world. That's what's so amazing about herbs, is that this ability to help modulate or balance actions within the body. There's nothing like it in that world. So examples of herbs in that class are holy basil, ashwagandha, licorice, schizandra, rhamania, a lot of the medicinal mushrooms like maitake, shiitake, reishi, cordyceps. So we have a lot of just kind of multitasking herbs to tap into in that grouping. It just so happens too, a lot of those are also immune supportive. So among other immune supportive herbs are echinacea, of course, elderberry, which I know a lot of people already know about. One thing I'll mention with elderberry is that it's if we do happen to get sick and actually start, developing symptoms, we're going to want to switch our game plan and stop using elderberry. There's some research now showing that it can exacerbate some of the kind of inflammatory responses that are triggered within our body in an acute illness. So I use it mainly as a preventative, and then we switch game plans if someone actually gets sick. So that's something good to be aware of. But other immune supportive herbs, astragalus, another one that you'd want to discontinue if you actually got sick. So these are mainly used in prevention. Antiviral herbs, we have so many to choose from. Garlic is something we can even just cook with regularly to have an antiviral action within the body. And I'm going to say it now. Now is the time to get over the fear of smelling like garlic. Not only are we needing its medicinal qualities right now, but we're standing at least 6 feet away from everyone, right? So it's the perfect time. But other herbs like lemon balm, for example, or St. John's wort, olive leaf, all antiviral. So many different tools in that category. There's antibacterial herbs, again, garlic, golden seal, echinacea, oregano, turmeric. So we can throw more turmeric into our cooking. That's a great way to use that. Thyme, even, manuka honey, if you've ever heard of that. That's a great antibacterial tool. There are herbs that help to encourage our lymphatic movement and drainage. So our lymph system is really how our body takes out the trash. So we're going to want to encourage that all we can in prevention for sure. So herbs like red root or cleavers, prickly ash, dandelion. If we have dandelion in our yard and we don't spray chemicals on them, we can actually harvest them for medicine. Right? A lot of times our medicine grows in our own backyard. There are herbs that help to support respiratory health. So like Osha is one of my favorite, great for lower respiratory health and creating stamina within the lungs. So great for people who are asthmatic and want to protect their lungs going into this challenging time. Also herbs like licorice, eucalyptus, peppermint. The cordyceps mushroom is great for lung function. So there's a lot we can do there to bolster that system. And then the last thing I want to say with natural tools like medicinal herbs is really, again, the focus is prevention. as much as we can. You know, incorporating them now when we're well not only helps us feel more confident, but that it also bolsters our systems against anything we could come into contact with, not just the one, you know, dreaded virus we're all hoping to avoid. So think broad spectrum immunity. There's really no, like I said, no answer to that in pharmaceutical medicine. The fact that we can, you know, strengthen our defenses against anything that we might meet up with. So it's been proven. What I should say is, instead of proven, that there are naysayers that like to point to the fact that there are no natural remedies that are proven effective against COVID-19. And this is true. We don't have the science, the new research to back that up. But what we do know is that there are many people that have been exposed to COVID-19 and have built antibodies against it and have not come down with it. So what this proves is that if we have a strong immune system, we can be exposed to it and not even develop symptoms. So it comes down again and again to prevention as much as we can. And that's the best we can do in this time of Corona. Any questions about herbs? I know that's a big topic, and that's something that not everybody's familiar with. I'd love to answer any questions.
Oh my God, I was trying to get them down in the chat, some of what you were saying. So I'm sure people have questions. Does anyone want to jump in here with any comments or questions?
Maybe while people are typing. Oh, go ahead, please.
Go ahead, Anne.
Sorry, I've got dandelions in the yard. We've
Nice.
just had a lot of rain here. Do you just dry them? How do you utilize them?
There's a couple different ways. If you've got fresh growth, you know, in the springtime and they're tender leaves, you can actually cook the leaves like you would any nutritious green. So like chard or kale or spinach. We like to just saute it in the pan with a little bit of butter or ghee or coconut oil. And because they're a little more bitter tasting, and that's on purpose, it actually helps digestion. Like you were just talking about bitter herbs in your mocktail, Amy Jo. We want those bitter herbs in our lives to stimulate healthy digestion. So because they are a little more bitter, we like to mix them in with, say, some chard or collard greens, or, you know, just to kind of disperse that bitterness a little bit. But that's a great use of the young leaves. If it's later in the season and the leaves are kind of scraggly and rough, I would go for the root in that situation. As long as you know, again, there hasn't been any chemicals sprayed in the area, harvest the root, and you could, I would say, chop it up while it's fresh and dry that, and then you can make tea out of it. So that's a great use for it at a different stage in its life. Yeah. I will say tea is one of my favorite ways to use herbs because it's so budget friendly. So, you know, you could take an herb out of each of these categories I just talked about and, you know, throw it into a daily herbal infusion that you make, just to, you know, that's very low cost. You could order, you know, if you're lucky enough to have an herbal apothecary in your area, which there are more and more popping up all the time. A lot of them are doing, you know, over the phone orders or internet orders and pick up, you know, curbside, or you can, I love mountain rose herbs for that reason as well. You can order online and have it delivered. And if you have questions about specific herbs, yeah, let me know. I'm happy to help with that.
Are there, I guess one question I would have, you know, you've talked about all these herbs, and I know that there's a lot of particulars around herbs. What would you say about contraindications? Like, are there things we need to be careful of using together, or could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, most of the herbs I just mentioned are very safe. That being said, I'd say St. John's wort is one that has the most, is the most commonly contraindicates with pharmaceutical medications, especially antidepressants. So anything that alters serotonin, we're going to want to not mix St. John's wort with that. So I'd say St. John's wort would be one I'd reserve for, once you've spoken to an herbalist or your pharmacist to make sure that there's no contraindications. That being said, from the ones I mentioned, I mean, there are some herbs that alter and enhance our liver's ability to detoxify. And what that means as far as our pharmaceutical drugs go, it might alter how we metabolize our drugs then as well. So, cooking with dandelion, making dandelion tea, I'm not really concerned, even though it has a liver supportive benefit, I'm not as concerned with combining that with, say, certain medications. But some of these other like lymphatic herbs I mentioned, or anything that says liver detox on it, you might want to check on that first before you combine it with a medication. But as far as combining the herbs together, it's really just a matter of, you wouldn't want to combine an herb that's going to lift up your energy with an herb that's going to decrease your energy, or that just obviously doesn't make sense in terms of action. Same for like if you have someone who has high blood pressure already, you're not going to want to add herbs into their regimen that are stimulating in any way, because we are exacerbating a kind of pre-existing condition. But many of these herbs are very safely combined together because they have unique actions and they work synergistically. So by supporting different body systems, you're really working in a very diverse way. I think that's the beauty and the art of herbalism too, is in the way that you combine them. So they love working together. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's very helpful.
Awesome.
I'm just noticing we're a few minutes before the hour. Do people have other questions? I'm gonna get in here. I see some comments in the chat. Lori's talking about, immune support and inflammation preventatives are really good to be doing right now because of some of what is coming out in terms of the immune response. Several comments up here, just suggestions around the kinds of bars we might want to get, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and just the need for that fresh produce right now.
So important.
Yeah.
Well,
and then I love that Lori said that the food and cooking channel is more popular than the porn channel with I don't know what that means, your Discord server, but that's hilarious. Something's up if everybody is more focused on how to cook than they are on their porn.
Right. All about priorities.
I know.
Oh man.
Yeah. So I guess, any like final takeaways as we get ready to close out? There's so much here, and I know that you could talk to us for hours. I mean, this woman is such a wealth of information.
Thank you.
I mean, I highly recommend do a session with her. Just like if you want to kind of create a regimen for yourself and your own immunity and your own health right now and the specific needs that you have, just do a session or two with China Rose. If she can fit you in, she's always very busy. Getting her on for this was, it was challenging for us to even find a time because she's a very busy person. So I do really recommend that. I have done sessions with her. She's just absolutely incredible. So looking at what would be specifically helpful for you or you and your family members would be really good to do right now.
Awesome. Yeah, and we have some special prices going on right now to support people, because I know, like ourselves, we own a small business. We know what it's like right now, and happy to be there to support our community however we can. Yeah, I'd say definitely check out our website. We have blogs that, like Amy Jo had mentioned, on the topic that cover a lot of these same things I mentioned today. So you can go back and look at my notes there about the specific herbs you might think about. That's ChinaRoseWellness.com. And then we love putting out gobs of information on our Facebook page, our Instagram page. So you have a lot of resources there as well.
Yeah.
And ask questions. We would love for people to interact on those pages and ask your questions there so everyone can benefit from learning. We love that.
Anyone have questions now? Last chance for today, at least. But I hope that you will really follow China Rose's work and AJ's work. They're really incredible. Following on Instagram, Kristen says. Awesome. Yes.
Awesome.
So yeah, China Rose Wellness. Any closing thoughts you have for us, China Rose?
We have this innate ability to support our bodies and heal our bodies within each one of us. And it's really just a remembering, it's coming back to those roots wisdom is within every cell in our body. So the moment we pick up each of these bits of information, it's going to feel like coming home to this information. So I'm happy to help in that journey, in that process.
Beautiful. I love it. China Rose, you're so generous, so beautiful, so just such a wealth of information. I just really appreciate you being here today. I really wanted to have you on. Maybe we can have you on again in a few weeks.
That'd be great.
To do a little booster for everybody once everybody gets some things in the works around some of what you talked about today. Yeah, and one more question I do have that might be relevant for people. Do you have any suggestions? I don't know if you are offering recipes. Do you have suggestions for places where people can just get good recipes for this time? Because I know that, like I said, I'm getting bored with my own cooking. Probably other people might be having the same situation.
Yeah, no, totally. We actually are just now putting together a blog with recipes in mind. So if you want to go to our website and sign up for our newsletter, we're actually going to send it out first in the form of a newsletter, so our community gets that information first. So just not only our own recipes that we've gathered over time, but online resources to pull from that are health focused for sure. Yeah.
I love it. We all get to support these bodies extra right now. So you're getting lots of thank yous and appreciations in the chat. Awesome. Thank you so much, China Rose.
Thank you again. So lovely to spend the hour with you, and I'm here for you when you need us. We both are. AJ and I are a great team, so we can't wait to support you.
Yeah.
All right, you guys.
All right, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We will be back on Monday. I'm trying to figure out which days we're going to keep the Human Love Cocoon going, but we will definitely be here on Monday. I am teaching next Friday for anyone in this group that is interested in my class on how to teach and lead online. I will be doing that next Friday, so I know we won't be here next Friday, but we will definitely be here Monday. We may try to do another day next week, so just stay tuned and watch for the emails on that. So I'm sending everybody much, much love, and have a beautiful weekend. Take good care of your bodies.
Thanks, Amy Jo.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.